Hey, this is Mark with All American Health. We are a non-emergency medical transportation company based out of the state of Florida. If you're enjoying the information that you're receiving on these videos, hit the like and subscribe button so algorithm knows to push me higher up on the list when you're looking for non-emergency medical transportation advice. I'm continuing with the topic that I discussed in my previous video. It's also on a playlist by itself under vehicles, what to look for, what to purchase, what to buy, where to find non-emergency medical transportation vehicles, quality wheelchair vans. You really want to start looking everywhere. You want to look online. Craigslist is a good place to start. They usually have some vehicles on there, but you definitely want to check these places out first. You don't just want to go pull the trigger and then move on. You really want to test drive the vehicle, make sure it's running properly, make sure it's doing a good job. The first vehicle I purchased my first wheelchair van in 2009. It was a 2000 uh, Ford Econoline 350. It was a side entry van. And the gentleman that I consulted with, he was like, "Yeah, that's a good purchase. Side entry. That means you can do stretcher trips as well." And that initially, I didn't understand what he meant because I was solely focused on just doing wheelchair trips, and it worked really well for me. It drove. It was like it had probably around 250,000 miles on it. It gave me a good 50,000 miles before the engine went out. I replaced the engine, then the transmission went out. About another 60 to 70,000 miles in, but I was making enough money that it was okay. Uh, but that was my first vehicle, a 9-year-old vehicle. And like I said, I spent $3,000 on it. And back in 2009, $3,000 was still a nice little chunk of change. Nowadays, considering the supply chain issues, considering where the economy's at, you can't find a wheelchair van for $3,000. Not even a halfway decent one. Uh, but like I said, I had to replace the engine. That was 3 or 4 grand. I had to replace the transmission. That was another 3 or 4 grand. I had to make all of these changes. So it wasn't like the 3 grand was necessarily worth it. If you add 3 plus 3 plus 3, you talking 9 grand. I could have spent, 10 grand on a halfway decent vehicle and maybe not had the same issues. But again, when I first started, I was balling on a budget. I had to figure things out, and really had to put things together the right way that benefited me. So we did it little by little. If you're in a position where you have the finances to get things done, make a smart decision. Again, we're in 2022. You want to go on Craigslist, check out Facebook Marketplace, eBay Motors. Those are all good places to look. And then this is a gem. You want to talk with and check out some of the nursing facilities that you're going to. When you're pulling up to the backside, if they have a vehicle that has leaves on it, it's collecting dust, looking dirty, go inside and ask them about it. I had a situation with the client. He said, the one of the companies that he was transporting for had 6, 7 vehicles just sitting in the corner. I said, go in there and ask him about it. And sure enough, they had a vehicle that had very low mileage, and he got a really good deal for it. Side entry, wheelchair van. He could do both wheelchair and stretchers at the same time. He got a great deal for the vehicle. So it took him inquiring about it. There was another situation where I had a client, he purchased a retired ambulance vehicle from a retirement community. Whole areas is dedicated to retired individuals. It's like a retirement city. And he purchased a old ambulance van for like 10 grand. It was a 7 or 8 year old vehicle, but it was a retired ambulance vehicle and only had 60,000 miles on it. That's a great buy. 60,000 miles, 7, 8 year vehicle. You can't find that kind of deal. To be honest, he probably should have taken that vehicle and put it back on eBay Motors for 20 grand, flipped his money and made it back. But, he was more interested in running it and driving it and transporting individuals. But bottom line, he definitely could have made his money back, and it would have went really well for him. Like, he could have flipped that to a 10 grand profit very quickly. So, those are types of things that you want to think about. Finding deals online, going out, checking out the vehicle, making sure it's something that you want to drive, making sure it runs well, making sure it handles well. So you're not initially having to make adjustments and changes to it. It's one thing to change out some brakes and spark plugs. It's another thing to replace an entire engine or a transmission. So, just keep stuff like that in mind. Hopefully this has been helpful. You guys take care.